It is very difficult to give a homily. I dread this moment, but it is here. And we are gathered not only to pray for Fr.Steve, we are gathered as one community of pain and sorrow. We are gathered together by our common shock and a profound sense of loss. We are a community that's asking questions that we know will not get easy answers. There are many things that bind us now. And in this context, we are also a community of faith. We don't need to wait for things to be clear and to be rosy for us to proclaim what we believe in and what we hope for. It is precisely in moments of confusion and seeming senselessness that we are asked to proclaim together as a community, what we believe in. And we are consoled by this manifestation of love, not only for Fr.Steve, but for our brothers in the PIME. We are very much consoled by the presence of Archbishop Romulo Valles of Zamboanga and Bishop Romulo de la Cruz of Kidapawan, friends of Fr.Steve and friends of PIME. The second reading from the letter of Paul to the Corinthians asks a question. Death, where is your sting? Death, where is your power? Your sting, your power has already been conquered. If St. Paul were only here, in person, physically, I would have asked him to explain it. Explain to us how death lost its sting when we are confronted by the effects of it. But what conquers death? Life. Life conquers death. It is not the other way around. It is not death that conquers life. In our faith, it is life that conquers death. But what does it mean to live? What is this life that conquers death and deprives it of its sting? The Book of Wisdom tells us that life is found in God. Even those people that the world considers dead or even foolish, they continue to live, but they live in God. A life of justice, a life of love and service, this guarantees life. Not a prolongation of life here on earth, the way we normally live it or lead it, but it is life perceived in the eyes of faith, life in God. That's why the same St. Paul, in the second letter to the Corinthians, would even say we should live by faith and not by sight. We should not live by our normal way of seeing, touching, talking. We should live by faith, which provides us with another way of seeing, another way of touching, another way of conversing. In the face of the seeming power of death, we profess our faith in this type of life, a life that gives us a new perspective, which gives us also new hope, life in God. And every person who lives in God lives eternally. And in that person, the sting of death is powerless. This is what we're celebrating. We're celebrating the victory of the giver of life, who refuses to allow his beloved creatures to be conquered by death. And so Jesus came. He walked with us, even to death. He was buried. He went to the place of the dead. He went where we do not want to go. And from that time on, every person who dies does not die alone. We can stretch our imagination and somehow get a glimpse of the horror of being separated from your friends on an occasion that is supposed to be happy, relaxing. You can imagine the horror of seeing yourself being eaten up and being brought to the earth. You can imagine the horror of shouting and nobody hears. You can imagine the horror of mustering every energy left in you to save yourself and failing. We don't need to imagine. We have to believe that Jesus walks with everyone who feels the solitude, the final solitude and confusion. He was that grain that fell to the earth. He was that grain that he was talking about in the gospel. And unless that grain falls to the earth, it cannot give life. He willingly, lovingly fell to our earth, especially the earth that we don't want to fall into, the earth of death. He became that grain so that we will have life, so that nobody dies alone. He has the Son of God with him. And because the Son of God is with him or her, life is present. Love that conquers death is there. Love which is stronger than death. This moment of pain is a moment also of realization for us. Where do we locate life? Where do we find life? Life is a communion. Communion with God. Communion with all the children of God. Communion with the whole of history and the whole of creation. A person in communion lives. Because our God of life is a God of love and a God of communion. And He will not stop being communion with us, even if it means embracing death. So that death will be a way to life. Being with God, being with each other, being united with the whole of creation, then we live. Life is in loving. Fr.Steve, as a priest, has said so many times, the Lord be with you. The Lord is with you. A beautiful greeting. It's equivalent to live. Be alive. The Lord is with you. Find life. You're not alone. You are with God. And anyone who is with God lives. He who has said that, oh, maybe millions of times, the Lord be with you. We want to tell him, the Lord is with you. And you are